Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WDW Fan Zone Show, brought to you by Mouse Fan Travel. Mouse Fan Travel is the way to go whenever you want to go to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, an Adventure by Disney, a Disney cruise, or another vacation that does not necessarily have to be Disney. They've got great packages, great plans, and they do things your way, the best way, the only way. And you can find out more about Mouse Fan Travel and all the wonderful, great deals they've got going on right now by going to www.mousefantravel.com. That is www.mousefantravel.com. So we're welcoming Kurt and John Maloney with us, and our very special guest, Christine, who returns after doing, I think it was show episode 333, if I'm not mistaken. It was an April 15th episode from your last trip. So this time you went on a family gathering trip. But before we get into that, why don't you remind our listeners and viewers who you are and, more importantly, why you're here?
Great. Thank you. So my name is Christine. Definitely here to help share my experiences and all the fun and exciting and good and bad and ups and downs of our Disney vacation. I have in my immediate family, myself and my husband, and then 3 kids, 17, 15, and 10 at this ages. So 2 olders are girls and the youngest is a boy. So a wide variety of likes, dislikes, and everything else all mashed into that bundle of fun.
Yeah. So when you came to Disney this time, you had more than just your immediate family here. How did that go?
We did. We had a huge group this time. So this time when we went, we expanded our group. We had my dad and his longtime girlfriend, so older couple there. We also had my sister and her family, and she has a younger family. So it was her and her husband and 3 kids, and they are 5, 3, and 4 months at the time. So a little guy. And then we brought my niece along as well. And she is the same age as my son. So she was 10. And then we also had my mom who joined us and my sister who lives out in Virginia. And unfortunately, her husband couldn't make it, but she did join us for part of the trip as well. So in total, we had a few come a little bit late, some leave a little bit early. But for the majority of the trip, we had about 15. And then, my sister's husband, his mother-in-law actually lives in Florida. So she also joined us for several days along the way as well. So we had a very robust crowd for this trip.
Imagine. Did you wear matching T-shirts along the way?
You know, we didn't. What we did do, we were there on Father's Day. And what we did was for all the fathers, we bought some matching button-up jungle shirts with Mickey on them. So
that's cool.
We did, to celebrate Father's Day, have matching shirts. But the rest of the days, it was too tricky to coordinate with everybody what they were going to wear.
I was very jealous of those shirts, I have to admit. Those were nice. So now, did you cram all 15 into one room, or what did you do for housing?
Right? I mean, we were really lucky. We did stay at Art of Animation this time around. I thought it was a good one for the smaller kids because they love the pool, and their pool there is huge. But we were lucky enough to get 4 different rooms, and we were all in one hallway. 2 rooms were right next to each other. And then one was right across the hall, and then another one just a few doors down. So we were all very, very close together. So we were really lucky that Disney was able to make that happen.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, sometimes it's a little difficult when you have that many people.
Yeah.
Christine, can I ask a quick question about the hotel? What time were you able to check into your room?
So we had one room that got ready about 4:30. On the first day, we had 2 rooms checking in the first day we arrived, and one room was ready at 4:30, and the second room wasn't ready till almost 7. Wow. So there was a really big difference. So what we ended up doing was piling all the luggage into one of the rooms, at the room that was ready, and then move it later. And the next day,
they've had trouble with that lately.
yes. Yeah, the next day when the others arrived, both of their rooms were ready about the same time, around 4:30, 5 o'clock. So it was a little bit later.
Okay. Well, at least you had a way to make it work. And then once the second day, now did they need to drop luggage off the second day, or?
No, they were coming in later in the night.
They came in later, and then the room was ready when they got there.
Correct. I think their flights got in like 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So meals must have been interesting with such a large group.
Meals were a challenge, let me tell you.
I can imagine.
There was no way, I knew there was no way we were going to get reservations for, 14 people, right? That's not going to happen. So most of the meals that we did on each of the days, we split up for our reservations. A group of 6, a group of 7, a group of 3. We had to be creative in order to go to the places that we wanted to go in order to make it work with times that were somewhat reasonable. It was interesting this time because we were traveling with the younger kids, right? And they're more on a set eating schedule than the older crowd, right? So like we could say, all right, we'll wait until 1:30, 2 o'clock for lunch. It's not such a big deal, but for them, they need to eat closer to noon. So it was definitely, we split up a lot at the different places during the different things. And once we got there, some places were better about being able to seat us somewhat closer together. And some were like, nope, not happening. You just have to go where you go. And that's fine too. We were just happy we were all eating at a within 5-10 minutes of each other.
So I gather you didn't go to the Sci-Fi Diner, which is John's favorite restaurant.
I never said it was my favorite.
We did not this time around. We did hit a couple restaurants for the first time that we've never done before. We did Cinderella's Royal Table for the first time. And we also did at Epcot, the spinning one.
Garden Grill.
Garden Grill. Yes, Garden Grill for
Grill.
the first time. Yes.
Yeah, 2 great choices there.
Yeah. Although, I have to tell you, I wasn't ready for Cinderella's Table. I didn't realize it was like a 2.5-hour experience.
Wow.
We were there so long. It was just so slow.
So it was just how long it took for everything to come to the table, the time in between courses.
Yeah, we waited for about a half hour for our table after our time. And then when we got up there, we were up there for a good 2 hours. I mean, it was, had I known that, I probably would have structured that meal a little bit differently.
Do you think it was staffing issues, like not enough cast members there, or do you think it was just very busy and just the unusually difficult day maybe for them?
I don't think it was. They did have an event going on, I think, at another part of the castle because they did have part of it closed off. So I don't know if that was taking up the kitchen space because we would sit down and order and then it was just long waits between the first course and then a really long wait before the main course. So it was just seemed like forever for the food to come out.
And I was taking time away from touring then too in the evening.
Well, exactly. I was like, if I'd known this, I would have scheduled it for, a 10:30 lunch so that we could go out for the afternoon and spend a little more time.
Was the food worth the wait? I'm sure the kids loved it.
Yeah, the food was good. I'll tell you, my teenagers thought they're okay passing on it and doing something shorter and simpler and quicker to get back to the rides. Yeah. But the little ones loved it, meeting Cinderella and the magic stars that happened throughout it, that they loved.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now, when you went to Garden Grill, was it working where it was just spinning around so you got to see all the different views?
Yes, it was spinning around. We had characters who came to our table and they were able to do pictures and sign autographs and everything was working as I think it has in the past. So
good.
And their strawberry shortcake was amazing. That's all I have to say about that.
Yes,
I
Yep.
remember that.
Oh, amazing. Good stuff.
So with all the different generations and ages between everyone, how did you come up with a plan to tour the parks?
It was really, really tricky at times. So it was interesting because normally I'll tell you, my teenage girls and my husband would go to the park early because I'll tell you, my sister and her family with the kids in the morning were a little bit slower. You know, we weren't getting to the park until 9:30, 10 o'clock. And so my group would head to the park early, do some rides, and then meet up with us when we finally arrived. But what we kind of did was I structured it so that first lightning lane of the day that we would get at 7 a.m. would be something that was my hardest one, right? That was tricky to get.
Right.
And then just kind of go based on wait times and lightning lanes from there for the rest of the day on what was best and what was easiest and what people felt like doing.
Smart.
Yeah, it was tricky though, because I'll tell you that, you know, we have some people who, you know, the younger kids can't do all the roller coasters. And then we have, you know, multiple people who want to do the roller coasters. So sometimes what we would do is we would get a lightning lane. The people who want to do the roller coasters would go on, and then we would cancel it for the others because it was easier to just get it for the whole group instead of checking and unchecking and doing all of that than doing anything else. So we found that was the easiest.
Now, did you find one park easier and or more difficult than another park to keep everybody together? I guess.
Yes. So, I'll tell you, Magic Kingdom was the easiest because it had the most rides that everybody was interested in going on.
That makes sense.
And I'll tell you that for Hollywood Studios, my sister and the young kids, they didn't go to that park. They went to the beach that day that we went to that park because they just didn't think there was going to be enough for the little kids to even be able to meet the height requirements and go on and spend the day there. So Hollywood Studios was out for them, but we did Magic. We actually did 2 days of Hollywood Studios, my family and I. The first day that we had arrived early, and then the day they went to the beach. We did 1 day of Epcot, and we did 2 days of Magic Kingdom and 1 day of Animal Kingdom. So Magic Kingdom was the easiest.
But in general, you tried to keep the larger group at least in the same proximity of each other.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say for probably 80 to 85% of the day, we were all together doing the same thing.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. Yeah.
And you did the planning ahead of time, or you did the planning, you know, in steps throughout the day as you went?
So I had an idea of, before we even got there, of what rides I thought we should target. And say, okay, you know what, with the kids, you know, with what we like, these are the ones that I think is going to work the best. And we need to try and figure out how to make that happen. And in what order was more dependent on when it would move around based on our lightning lane selections and which ones we could go.
Right.
Because my goal was to stand in as few lines as possible.
Everybody's
especially with the July heat. Yeah, I hear that one.
Yeah. So that was my main goal. So the order of the rides was continually changing based on that.
The 800-pound elephant in the room, transportation issues.
Hold on. Before we get to the transportation issues, I gather did you use Genie Plus every day?
Every day.
Yeah.
Yes, every day.
Did you have any difficulty with Genie Plus, or did it work smoothly for everybody, being it's such a large group?
Well, so Genie Plus only can make a reservation for up to 12 people on one reservation. So we had to have 2 accounts open at all times, and those 2 people talking to each other saying, okay, I see this ride at this time. What's your time? So that we could be booking within the same hour.
Together.
at the same
Mhm.
time. And we split the group in two and said, okay, this is your group that you always book for. This is the group I always book for.
Yep.
And kept it that way the entire time. So that was another layer to add on. Luckily, it was my oldest daughter who helped me a lot with that. So, I wasn't asking my dad or my mom who, I had to set them up on Genie Plus, show them how to log in, and this was going to definitely be more complicated than what they were used to.
And you didn't customize it along the way. You always kept those same two groups.
Correct.
You didn't adjust it and say, well, maybe these people can't go. You just made it for all of the people in the group, and if some weren't going to go, you just canceled them.
We just canceled it out. Yeah.
Mhm.
You didn't have, okay, well, let's split it up, and the ones that don't go, we'll put them into another attraction nearby.
Yeah, no, we found when we started, we did that one day, we took someone out and then we forgot to put them back in because they were going to sit a ride out. And then we're like, oh, now we don't have one for that person. We have to redo it. So we're like, forget it. It's too hard with everything else and the heat. Just leave everybody in, book them all, and then just cancel them.
Okay. Well, it seems to have worked for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that using Genie Plus this time was way easier than the first time. And I don't know if it's because we got better at it and understanding how to use it, how to stack things, how to make it work so that we had tons of Genie Pluses lined up. It was just much, much easier this time around.
Would you use it again, even
Yes.
with just your immediate family? So you would.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Did you use Lightning Lane very much?
Yes, with the Genie Plus.
Individual Lightning Lane.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We used both. Yeah, everything.
Okay.
Were there any attractions you think you purchased the Lightning Lane for that you might not necessarily have needed it?
We didn't purchase that many. Of the ones that we purchased, I'm trying to think which ones we purchased. Rise.
Mhm.
We purchased Rise, and that one definitely needed it. The line was really long and it was really hot that day.
Mhm.
That is one of the big benefits of Genie Plus during the summer is
It
you
is.
spend less time standing in a line in the heat.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
how did you guys get Cosmic Rewind without having to buy the Lightning Lane?
We did not buy the Lightning Lane. We were there and we were off the Disney
Boom.
Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
And we were just lucky enough to get it. Although I tell
Especially
you,
two groups.
yeah, two groups,
Yeah.
and we were able to get it. But I'll tell you that, man, that was a stressful day. Epcot was our most stressful day ever, mainly because we got the virtual group for Guardians, and when it first came up, it said we did the minutes out, and it said around 3:30 or 4 o'clock is when our time would get called. We're like, great, that's perfect. So we also at 7 o'clock then got Frozen, and our lunch was at 11:30. So we got Frozen for 1 o'clock. We're like, this is going to be perfect. We'll eat lunch. We'll go to Frozen. We'll go to Guardians. It'll all work out. And as we're going through Epcot in the morning, that Guardians time just kept moving up,
Yep.
moving up, moving up. We're at lunch and it says, okay, 11:45 noon, your boarding group is open. And we're like,
How?
what? We're never going to make it to Frozen. We can't even finish eating. So we rushed through lunch and then we split up. So the kids and my mom all went to Frozen because Frozen and now Guardians were at the same time. So we had to give up something. And then the other half of us went over to Guardians. And I'll tell you that for the whole trip, that was our longest wait, was for that ride through the virtual queue. I think we probably an hour, between 40 minutes and an hour.
Yeah, that was the way Remy was when it first opened up with a virtual queue. They had an hour-long wait all day long.
And there was one day in particular where it had an even longer wait, right, Kurt?
I don't want to talk. Oh, man.
I don't want to talk about that either.
60-minute wait. Oh, we'll get it in 45 minutes. Don't worry. 2 hours and 20 minutes later.
Oh, God. Yeah. Stuck in the queue.
We ran out of things to talk about. We're like, okay, here, let's check what's going on with our other things going on the floor.
Yeah. All right. So let's move over to Kurt's question about the transportation.
Your transportation woes.
Transportation wasn't terrible this time around. We had a few times where it seemed like the bus would never come. Just really, really long waits for the bus. And I'm like, we're at a large resort. How is the bus not coming at least every 20 minutes? I mean, it was just waiting and waiting and waiting. I mean, at one point, I think half of our group had finished and had been done over at Hollywood Studios and was going to head back to the hotel. They went and got in line for the bus. We decided to go on Minnie and Mickey's Railway one more time, waited in the line, did the ride, came back out, and it was probably like a 15, 20-minute wait. I mean, it wasn't, walk on. It was a good 20 minutes. And they were still waiting for the bus.
Wow.
What time of day was that?
It was like 3, 4, maybe about 5 o'clock. It wasn't dark. It wasn't even late at night. It was, early evening.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard about that one. I heard
I'm
about
not trying
that
to.
one. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Kurt.
No, I was literally texting back and forth with her husband.
Yeah.
Oh, the girls did this and we did this, and then great. Well, we should have gone with them because now they're here and now comes the bus.
Yeah.
Like, you ever feel like you wasted 45 minutes, you can't get it back? Yeah. That was,
I'm not defending Disney for this, but there are a lot of factors that go into it. It could be the time of day, the number of drivers that they have
don't have them
at that point in time for that particular route. It could be people that have special needs that need help or assistance getting on and off the buses. It could be a number of reasons that would cause the delays like that. Unfortunately, those things happen.
Yeah,
that's excessive. The amount that they were waiting.
Yeah.
I just kept telling them, jump on the Skyliner. Just jump on the Skyliner. You're right there.
Yeah.
The Skyliner was great. I mean, every time we didn't have any issues with the Skyliner this trip. It was running the whole time. Just really, really good time on that one.
Now, would you like to see them add air conditioning to the Skyliner cab?
Funny you said it. Most of the time, we're okay. Because when you're up in the air, that ventilation flows right through. But when you're going around the turns and the stations, that's when it gets warm. It gets pretty, especially if you just stop for a second.
Like the one in the parking lot at Boardwalk.
Yes. Yeah.
Where it's a bit slow going around that corner, right?
Yes. Yeah. But I really like the Skyliner. And I'll tell you that any resorts with the Skyliner have gone up in my list of resorts to stay at because I like it better than the bus.
Yeah. And you know what? Disney knows that.
That's why the price is substantially raised on those.
Yeah, the points on the Riviera are not small for DVC.
No. Did you get to eat at Connections Cafe in Epcot?
The Connections Cafe. I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
It's up in Future World.
No.
Where the electric umbrella used to be.
Where electrical umbrella.
Oh, yeah. No, we did not eat there. We did not eat there. We did sit outside the benches from the doors and let the doors blow air conditioning on us for a break. But we didn't actually go inside.
She's got a smart family. That's all there is to it. The girls know.
And the reason I mentioned Connections, it's one of the few restaurants where they have plenty of seating. And yes, it's crowded, but if you have food, they have a section, believe it or not, that they rope off. So if you have a food tray and you can't find a seat, you can go to that section and they will find you a table.
Nice. We will have to put that on our list.
Yeah, it's best burger. I think it's the best burger in the parks right now.
Now, did you eat your way around Epcot?
No.
Or what did you guys do for food? You just actually did was it
They
carry
brought
out?
peanut
Was
butter
it-
and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, no, at Epcot we went and ate at Garden Grill, in
that's
record
right.
time. And I had told the waitress, I said, listen, we got to meet our Guardians time, so we got to move this quick. So I think we made it one rotation, maybe not even one full rotation. That's how quick we were there.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the cast members that serve you there do understand that people are on a time crunch a lot of the time.
Yeah, they were great. She was great. And it was great because at Garden Grill, we were split up into two parties there. And one had a really big section. And then the rest of us were sitting right next to it. So they put us right next to each other on that one. So that one was really great.
No, that's good. That's good.
So that was lunch. What did you do for dinner on that day then?
That was our last day. So
gotcha.
We moved to another hotel later that night and ate out somewhere.
Gotcha. That's right.
And it was hot as all get out that day. I think it was like 106 or something. So we were done at like 3 or something.
Ooh, I can't imagine.
It was so hot.
I mean, I was supposed to go to Epcot this past Wednesday, and I changed the date to go because it was just so hot outside. I just didn't want to deal with the heat.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Did you get to all 4 parks?
We did. Yeah. We made it to all 4 parks. We did not do any park hopping, though, because with that many in a group, just way too much. Yeah, we enjoyed all 4 parks, and I think each had its positives and negatives and along the way. We even went to Disney Springs for a little bit one day. So that was fun. Ate at Chef's Mickey's one morning. So that was good too.
Mm-hmm.
We really did a lot in the time
Was
we were there.
everybody, after you were all done, I mean, did everybody seem to enjoy themselves?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
whether it was dining or attractions or whatever.
Yes. And I'll tell you that I think we had debated a long time about the fireworks, whether or not we stay for fireworks or whether or not we don't stay for fireworks. That was a huge debate for the pros and cons and everything else. And we decided we were not going to do any fireworks at any of the parks or see any of the later shows, because really what made a bunch of people happy was being able to get back to the hotel and go to the pool and just relax and have a drink and rest for a little bit before we started up the next day. So that was one thing that we had talked about a little bit ahead of time and made the conscious decision to not fight with those crowds and just pass on it for this trip.
And you had the expectation set, so it's not like you could be disappointed necessarily.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, is there anything you think Disney could have done better for the guests in any of the parks at any time because of some of the things you came up against that you might have said, well, you know what, this is different from the way things were 4 or 5, 10 years ago, that you would have liked to see change, or even things that have changed now that you say, okay, you know what, they can improve on this?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Man, what I like and hate about Disney all at the same time is that they're not afraid to change things majorly. And whether good or bad, right, or different. Like I love the Magic Band option and not having to pay with things and just have it charged to the room. I really struggle sometimes with making, if I want to eat somewhere, I have to make those reservations 60 days ahead of time, and I really struggle with that. Maybe one day I'd like to just walk up somewhere and be able to go in. And that seems to be a really challenging thing. So to me, I can figure it out because I know about Disney, but I think some of those families who are first-time families who don't know about the 60 days, if you don't get on right away, or it's their first time to Disney and they just don't know, I think there's a lot of disappointment because they don't realize how they could be missing out on some of those reservations. So to me, I don't know how to fix it. To me, that's just one thing that's a huge challenge for Disney on how things are set up right now.
Yeah, I think that'll change in time.
Yeah. And I'd like to see the dining plans come back. We would always do a dining plan. I don't know. I know it's big debate whether it saves money, doesn't save money. It was easier for us just because we always had a table service, a quick service, and a couple snacks, and that worked well for us. And then I just
you would have been
knew
able to get the reservations. So, I mean, you just said how you don't like having to plan 60 days ahead of time. So if you had the dining plan, do you think that would have been extra work ahead of time? Certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah. And that's where, it gets so muddled with what's good and what's bad and what's the pool and non-pool that it's hard to tell sometimes.
And the problem you would have ran into this time is however you set up that dining plan situation, like everyone that's in your room has to be on the dining plan.
Yep.
So like my sister would come over for 3 days instead of 5. And she's got to pay for those extra 2 days.
Yeah. I remember you saying that.
And that's why I don't know if I would have done it for this large of a group, but just for my family when we're all doing the exact same thing. And, it just makes it simpler.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there anything that you noticed in the parks that you absolutely loved and wish it was there years ago, and hopefully it'll be there years from now? And please don't say Genie Plus.
I don't love Genie Plus. I'm just happy I know how to use it better. How about that? They better never get rid of the popcorn buckets, is what I'm saying.
Oh my God.
The $2.50
that's
refills.
An awesome deal.
If you ever get rid of the popcorn buckets, Disney, we're going to have issues because everyone in my family loves the popcorn bucket. It's the one thing we can all agree on. And refilling the popcorn, I can do it 20 times and make everybody happy.
How many times a day were you guys? Every time I talk to her husband, he's like, we got another bucket.
I'm in line for popcorn. Yeah, right.
It was like 3 times a day.
Hey, we're popcorn eaters.
How far was that bucket stretching? Was that for all 13 people?
It wasn't. We actually had 3 buckets among all of us. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how these guys had room to eat their regular meals with all the popcorn they were eating on the strip.
Man.
It was insane.
Now,
loved it.
Something, maybe it's unfair for me to say this because a certain person isn't here tonight on the show with me. I'll give you a hint. It's not Lottie.
There you go.
Saw this person in the park whose name is Darlene, but I won't mention it's Darlene.
The 5th member of our party.
Yeah. So she had her popcorn bucket fastened to her bag. Well, guess what happened? The lid separated from the popcorn bucket and was full and went all over the place. Now, in fairness to Darlene, those lids do not stay on that securely. You need to do something with them, especially if you're going to fasten them to a bag or a backpack.
Yeah, don't fasten them to the bag or the backpack. It's asking for trouble.
That's a pop off immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, one thing that I don't miss with having older kids is the strollers. I thought I missed the strollers to hold our stuff, but you know what?
No.
I did not, when I was putting together our plan and thinking about what we're going to do, build in the time that I needed for the stroller parking and finding the stroller parking and then getting the stroller back and getting the kids in the stroller and then moving it along. And I'm like, man, I thought I missed the stroller, but you know what? I don't think I missed the strollers.
Yeah.
No.
So I do think that it's easier than it was to find where to put the stroller correctly so it doesn't get moved into another location. But man,
yeah.
Well, that's one piece I don't miss anymore.
Well, and your kids are old enough and active enough now that the 50 miles in 5 days or 60 and whatever, it's not that big of a deal to them. So,
No,
I mean,
they
we
just
feel
go
it worse
along.
than they do at times. I mean, we're resting on the side of the pool and in the hot tub, and they're running around in the pool still.
Yeah. Yes. Soaking the feet.
Yes.
Yeah, that's always good when you can just relax at the, especially when it's 100 degrees outside.
It was so hot. It was
How
so hot.
hot was the pool water, though?
You
It
know
had
what?
to be 98 degrees.
It was warm. It was great. It was relaxing. That's what I loved about it.
Yeah.
Did your group spend much time at the resort? Middle of the day or evening or?
You know, we did. We spent most of the evenings at the resort, either at the pool or people just relaxing in their rooms. One of the days that we went to Hollywood Studios, that me and my kids went down to Disney Springs. The rest of the group relaxed at the hotel. They were taking a break, cooling off before we went over to Hollywood Studios. And it was great. It was nice for everybody to just be able to have a little time away from the group as a whole and do a little bit of what they wanted that day and that morning.
Nice. That's what resorts are for. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Now, how different? I know you spent a few days at another theme park.
Yes.
Not titled Disney World.
It's
Not
a
titled.
universally known Disney park, I should say. Universally known park.
How was the days that you spent there?
They were good too. They were also hot, believe it or not. But I would say that overall, though, we got pretty lucky with weather. Our days at Disney, besides being hot, we had only one major rain day that just monsooned and didn't ever want to stop. Not like, a 20-minute rain and then moved on, where that was it. We had to call it at the park. We had a little more rain when we were at the other location. But it's interesting to me how different things are set up between the two. Sometimes I felt like the lightning lanes at Disney, when you were using them, were shorter than the regular line, but not really necessarily always lightning,
Right.
really moving through them.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll tell you that some of our longest waits were in the lightning lanes.
Right.
Whereas when I feel that at the other park, their pass, to skip the line is usually a lot faster. Like there's definitely a savings of time.
How did the crowds feel between the two?
They were both not bad. Like one day at Hollywood Studios was really, really crowded, but between the two, I still think that they are not the levels that they were pre-COVID. I feel like those days, those parks were a lot more crowded than what we had for any of these trips. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I remember, when we would walk in and walk down Main Street on Magic Kingdom, and it was just like wall to wall people, and you could barely get through. And here, like, walk in, there's a lot of open areas, just kind of go along.
Boy, it must be on days that I don't go to the park.
Yeah, so I thought the crowds they're busy. I'm also taking into account that this is June and not, when I'm expecting busy. So that's part of it too.
How big was your family gathering group at Universal?
We were 7. We were 7 at Universal.
About half of what you were at Walt Disney World.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So I'm sure that made it a little bit easier.
It did. It did make it a lot easier.
How is the fun factor at Universal compared to the fun factor at Disney?
We like them for different reasons, I think. To us, Disney is more the magic and remembering these movies and these different themes about these different rides and how they all go together. Whereas, we're going to Universal more for the thrills. We're looking for more the high speed rides and how those work and to go on those. So I think our expectations between the two are different.
Yeah.
Whereas, my teenagers enjoy Magic Kingdom as much as they do Universal. And they're very different with types of rides.
And the ironic thing with all of this is her husband 5 years ago beating his head against the wall because the girls wouldn't even go on Goofy's
Yes.
Barnstormer.
Yes.
And I'm like, come on, just go on. Just give it a try. And now they
Yeah.
can't get him off of the Raptor coaster.
Yeah. Oh no, we didn't go on it.
You didn't go on it this
we
time?
did not look at we did not go on the Velocicoaster. We did a lot of looking at it. And
It
then we
rained.
all said, and then it rained. And we're
Rained.
like, eh.
Because that's right. You were thinking about it.
We were.
But
We ate dinner next to it and looked at it, and then passed it up.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. You know, Universal. Well, Disney you go to for the princesses, the princes, the other characters. Where Universal you go to, let's scramble our brains on this attraction.
Yes.
Hey, the Mummy attraction is awesome. That's a great coaster.
Closed for refurbishment. It's still closed. Yeah.
Wow.
So no mummy this trip.
No mummies.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
No,
I did the Hulk for the first time in a long time.
See,
Wow.
I've
You have
never
to go
been
through a
an
metal
Alpha Adventure.
detector for it. So just
Really?
be forewarned. Yes. Because they're tired of people not leaving and locking up their keys and their cell phones and everything else, and then losing it when it goes upside
Falling
down
out, right?
into the water. So
Right.
you do have a metal detector when you go onto that ride.
Wow.
Not surprising.
No.
Food differences between Disney and Universal, and I know there are some.
Yes, there's definitely a difference in food. So Universal is definitely not table service food. It's definitely quick service food and very similar in all the different locations, at least in our minds it is. So normally, we don't normally eat dinner within Universal. We'll go to a restaurant around the area. Whereas, with Disney, we're pretty comfortable just eating any restaurant there or pretty close to it or at the hotel, whereas definitely not what we do at Universal. Although they have great milkshakes at Universal. I will tell you that.
Did anyone get the donut? The donut?
No donut this time.
You'd be sharing that thing between all 4 of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 of you, I should say.
You know, Joffrey's has some pretty big donuts too.
Oh, I love Joffrey's donuts.
Yeah, they're from
they do.
Donut King.
The pink and blue ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, it's another different expectation. We know the food is not as great that we think at Universal. There's not as much variety, although the hamburgers over in Jurassic Park area at Universal, we really enjoyed this time. But it's hamburgers, it's hot dogs, it's chicken breast sandwiches. So just gotta be ready for that.
Were you staying at a resort at Universal?
Yeah, we were at the Hard Rock Cafe.
Okay.
Or the Hard Rock Hotel.
Hard Rock. And you didn't eat at a restaurant in there?
No, we didn't eat. We ate at I'm gonna forget it. We ate at this restaurant that was in their store area, and we ate there because I wanted the dessert, which was a s'mores dessert.
Yes.
So we had dinner there.
It's lousy, but the desserts are great. Let's go there.
Yeah.
Hey, there's trade-offs in life, Stuart.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then we ate at the NBC restaurant over there too, with the NBC Sports and Grill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody in your group have special dietary needs? And if so, how were they accommodated in both Disney and at Universal?
Yeah, we had no special dietary needs, which is very lucky. And we had no special requirements like wheelchairs or canes or anything with special needs that we had to worry about either. So I think both of those things made the trip a lot easier for all of us to stay together and coordinate, that there wasn't that separation. I'll tell you that.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Did you use Universal's mobile app while you were there?
Yes. Yes.
How did that compare to My Disney Experience?
what's interesting about Universal is I don't think they expect people to use it as much or rely on it.
Can we just have this app just for show?
So like we use it to check the wait times.
Yeah.
And we did it for some mobile ordering.
Okay.
But that's, that would be it. There's no like reserving rides or anything like that within the app.
Oh,
and
there's not?
No. Yeah, no. We would just scroll through, see what the wait times are, and then just move on. So the Disney app is much more
Full featured.
very tricky to understand where to go, which is, I figured it out, but understanding, I think there's a lot more that Disney wants you to use the app for.
So I gather Universal's app won't help you find your car.
I know.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but Disney's will.
But
Yeah.
Disney's will.
They just added that, right?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So that means next time I go down, I don't have to text where I'm parking to your husband.
No, but you could still do it as a backup just in case.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I would still suggest that people parking at Disney, use the app. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Take a picture anyway of your spot.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, you never know when you're going to run out of battery. So just in case.
True. True.
Overall, how would you compare this trip, being it was such a large family gathering, compared to your more recent trips?
I think overall it was good. I'll tell you that the one trouble that we had was really revolved around the magic bands. The magic bands was one of our biggest stressors. And it wasn't the magic band for getting into the room. We could all use our bands to get into the room. It was the magic bands for charging to the room.
Really?
So like when we checked in, nobody could charge anything to the room until you went to the front desk and had it turned on.
Really?
So we didn't know that until, of course, we tried to charge something to the room and realized that we couldn't do that and had to pay another way. So once we figured that out, we were able to get everybody set up. And then halfway through the trip, I'm at the ice cream cart to get an ice cream and a lemonade and, something else. And I go to pay and it tells me I'm denied and I'm not set up for charging. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not set up for charging? I'm literally the primary person.
Right.
How am I not set up for charging? And they're like, we're sorry, you're not. And I'm like, well, I don't have another form of payment on me. And luckily, my mom was right there and she's whipped out her credit card and paid. But I was like, how does my charging get turned off in the middle of the day?
Was anybody ever able to track the reason down, or
No. Well, so then I went to, one of the Blue Umbrellas, the Disney Experience team people. And I'm like, listen, it says that I'm not allowed to charge. And so I did my little band and she's like, yeah, you're not allowed to charge. And I'm like, well, I need to be able to charge. So she's like, well, I can turn it back on for you here, but I can't tell you why it happened. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Just turn it back on so I can get through the rest of my day. So then when I went back to the hotel, they're like, well, we don't know why it got turned off. You should be fine. So then the next day, got to the park and guess what?
Did you get a cast member mad at you?
I guess I couldn't charge again.
They were running out of popcorn, so they turned it off so that you
Yeah.
would be buying all the popcorn.
Here they come again. More
Yeah, here they
popcorn
come.
thoughts.
Turn it
Okay,
off,
let's
turn it
shut
off.
it off.
So I'm like, this is crazy. So I ended up going down and talking to them and they're like, well, it says because of you had a large charge. And I'm like, well, I had a large charge because we ate at Chef Mickey's.
yeah.
So
Wow.
and they're like, well, now it looks like we ran your card, so you should be okay. And I'm like, well, why did you run my card?
Right.
I said, first of all, I don't want you to run my card because I had these redemption points from my Visa that I wanted to use to pay for it.
Right.
So I don't know. And nobody could really give me a good answer of why any of that happened because it didn't happen to the other rooms. It just happened to my magic band in my room.
It's like when you go through security with TSA, you were the one they picked out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was the one where they picked out. So the switching off of the being able to use your Magic Band for charging was a little bit frustrating during this trip, especially when there's so many people. And I'm like, oh, don't worry, I'll just take care of it and we'll figure it out. And then suddenly I couldn't take care of it.
Wow.
Denied.
But I think that was probably the trickiest part of the whole trip, and traveling with so many people and getting it all to work and making sure everybody's Magic Band worked when it should have, and then coordinating, okay, what time are we leaving in the morning, and getting all of that together.
Now, did you tell your credit card company I'm going to Disney?
I didn't, because it's a Disney Chase
Disney
visa.
Doesn't matter. If you're going out of state, you still have to let them know. And that's probably what happened. They probably saw these, saw the activity and said, this is suspicious.
I almost never do that, Stuart.
I don't do it either. We don't have.
Oh, I always do that. Whenever
I've
I'm going
never
to
done
someplace
it.
else, I call them up and I go,
Why
I'll
didn't you
be here for, X number of days.
Why didn't you just pay with your redemption card right away? Because I always do that.
I didn't want to carry it around with me.
Yeah.
So because I know that you have to go down there before your last day and just pay off your balance, and it's fine. So that's what I just normally do the night before we leave. Go down, pay it off, and
Shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's not when you're taking 15 people to Chef Mickey's, apparently.
Correct.
That's something I have not done.
Yeah, they usually charge about $100 a week, and now here, $6,000 for Chef Mickey's.
Yeah, Chef Mickey's. That's like how much my whole family spent on the entire trip, probably.
Yeah.
Holy
Chef
cow.
Mickey's is what caused the cascade effect.
Yes.
Because it worked. Because my band worked at Chef Mickey's, and then after that, the next time is when it didn't. Denied. No more.
Yeah.
That was. I mean, I'm calculating in my head. That was a big bill.
That's a big
Yeah,
bill.
and I should say it was only half of us because we were split into two tables, so it was just half of us for that one.
Okay. It's still pricey.
It's still pricey.
Yeah.
Yes.
Off your credit card,
Especially because 2 of your kids are considered adults. Actually, rephrase that. 3 of your kids are now considered. All 3 of them are adults now.
Yeah.
Yes, for those listening, if you're 9 years or older, you're an adult at Disney World when it comes to pricing.
Yes.
Darn kids. They got to stop growing up.
Yeah.
I was disappointed that they didn't have the pictures back at Chef Mickey's. That was the one thing that disappointed me that I hope that they bring back, because we did enjoy getting our picture there at Chef Mickey's.
I'm sure they'll come back soon.
I mean, everything's coming back slowly. So
Yep.
We had problems getting some of our pictures at the park that came through for you. So like we did not get like anything at the Haunted Mansion. We had no pictures. Splash Mountain. I don't remember if we had Splash Mountain or not either. But unless I walked up with my Magic Band and rang it, we weren't getting it.
That's kind of odd.
That's what we thought. It wasn't like we were using 3-year-old Magic Bands or something.
No, they remember the time you got kicked out of the park with your truck because of your tripod.
My tripod,
You're blacklisted.
Yeah. No, I mean we were on an annual pass and everything. So
meanwhile, I saw somebody Sunday at Animal Kingdom who had a tripod that was bigger than me. When I say bigger, taller than me.
And they didn't get kicked out. Yeah, Christine, I was once escorted out of the park politely because I had a tripod that was more than, what's the magic number? 54. It's not even that high. It's like 48 inches or something like that.
The one I saw was like 78 inches, if not more, maybe 80 inches tall.
Oh my
there's
gosh,
ways to
that's
get
huge.
around it, but they're like, you need to leave. We need to escort you out. I'm like, what did I do? They're like, your tripod's too big. I'm like, I'm being kicked out for what? They let me in with a tripod. I would have put it back in my car.
Yeah,
I've been
John
doing
shuts
this 3
down
years.
Rise, and he gets to go on the attraction.
Yeah,
you have a tripod that's like a quarter of an inch too big.
Yeah, it was like wasn't even a foot too tall. I'm like, I'll lower it down, and like, no, we're sorry, you're not we can't have you.
Please leave the park.
Yeah, They're like, well, the nice thing was as we're leaving, they're like, is there anything you'd like to do? And I'm like, can we stop and take pictures of the fireworks? And they're like, well, no, we can't do that. That requires you with your tripod. But anything, I'm like, no, I'm good. So they were polite about it. We went through and figured out how tall I could get. But
by the way, the person who kicked him out is now the president and CEO of Disney.
yeah, it was Bob Chapek that kicked me out of there. No, it was. Well, the best part with that, there was this woman was off to the side, and she sent over a kid that was like, he had to have just been hired. He was young, and he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, we have to escort you out. I'm like, why? And he kept looking over at her like, this isn't going as he used to say it was going to be.
Doing what Lou told him to do.
Yeah, Lou, Lou Mangello was upset because the tripod was taller than Lou, but I'm like, Lou, come on, it's okay, man. I'll take pictures for you too. But yeah, I didn't get it. So
just not following the rules. You were just being a rule breaker. That's what happens here.
I was told I have to have a tripod that fits inside of a backpack. So I found one that fits inside of a backpack. That extends almost as tall as the one that I had. So it fits inside of the backpack, so it's okay. So
my goodness.
Christine, have you ever been kicked out of one of the parks?
I have never been kicked out of any of the parks. And I'm going to hope that streak continues, not getting kicked out.
I walked right back in the next day. It wasn't like they were taking all my information to go, you out of here, never again.
Everybody listening and watching, do as Kurt says, not as he does.
Correct, yes.
Don't take a tripod. I don't even, very rarely do I even take a tripod in anymore because I'm using basically the phone. I've got to mount my phone somewhere because that's what I'm using for taking the photos. So I'm not carrying it around all day long where I can mount my camera on there or anything.
You don't see too many cameras anymore in the parks. Now it is mostly everybody using their phones.
Yeah.
Not when you got it. How many people here have an iPhone Pro? Whichever version of it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the pictures are great. You don't need anything bigger now.
Nope.
That's very true. Biggest takeaway from your vacation?
You know what? My biggest takeaway was it doesn't matter if you're 2 or 75, you can still enjoy the parks. And there are still many ways to enjoy it. And they are still fun for everybody. I think it can still be an all ages trip. It's not meant for just little ones, just teenagers, just, to me, my biggest takeaway is everyone enjoyed themselves and found things that made them happy. And, there were different things that made different people happy, but you can do it. You can do it any age, any combination. You can do large groups, small groups. It's all what you make of it and the attitude you bring.
That's very true. Anything else you'd like to talk about before we end this thing?
Oh man, it was just fun. I mean, to me, we did things this trip that we'd never done before, and I just think there's more things out there, right? And I think every Disney trip is unique and memorable, and there's good and there's bad, and you have to put it all together because it's never going to be perfect. But it's all about family and experience, and hopefully everybody gets a chance to do that because that's what it's about.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, Christine, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you back on the show. We look forward to having you on again in the future.
Yes.
So everybody out there, be safe. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Your attention, please. Beep, beep. The WDW Fan Zone Railroad is now returning from a Grand Circle tour around the Walt Disney World Resort. Glad you toured!